This week, a group of current and former lawmakers and journalists met for a candid conversation about sexual misconduct in the Texas legislature. KXAN's Wes Rappaport reports the focus is on reforming policies.
How do we hold people accountable who don't have supervisors?
Some of these questions about sexual harassment in the Capitol don't have short answers, but simply put,
no one wants to come forward and do something this hard if they feel like it's just going to fall into a hole somewhere.
These leaders say that culture shock needs to happen sooner rather than later.
We just need to change the culture.
No one in this group directly called for resignations of Senators Boris Miles and Carlos Uresti, both anonymously accused of sexual misconduct, allegations they deny. And so far, no one is investigating the accusations, despite repeated calls for zero tolerance from several lawmakers.
We look at our policies and recognize that they are not being protective, that they are not giving good guidance.
Any future policies, one panelist said, need to be inclusive, adding interns and journalists, for example.
We want to make sure the public has trust in it and that it's transparent and it's something that's going to be productive.
There has to be a way for women to come forward where they feel like something will happen.
Wes Rappaport, KXAN News.
In December, lawmakers from both the Texas House and Senate held hearings to address how the legislature handles reports of sexual harassment. The House adopted new policies, including sexual harassment prevention training. Texas senators are still working to develop new procedures. We reached out to Senator Lois Kolkhorst for an update. She chairs the Senate Administration Committee. She sent us a statement and she told us her committee is working to craft any needed improvements to ensure a safe and welcoming workplace. For Perspective, we're joined by Olivia Messer. Her articles for the Daily Beast help reveal the accusations of misconduct at the Capitol. Welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So talk to me about this burn book. No one had really heard about this out in the public until you reported about it. Where did you even learn about it?
I think these women who had been involved in making it had read my first story about sexism in the legislature in 2013, and so because of that, trusted that I took the issue seriously, since I was really the first person to write about it. And they came to me after the Harvey Weinstein news broke because they sensed renewed interest in the subject. And so I took some of their stories and turned them into that first article. It's basically a document with 38 names at the time that I saw it. I'm sure it's changed since then. And there are accusations of everything from discrimination in terms of pay to sexual assault, with the names of men, mostly Democrats, because the list was made by women who are working in for Democratic candidates and as staffers for Democrats currently serving in the Texas legislature. So this list which had up to that point, I had not heard of it, and there are a lot of lawmakers who are female Democrats who were shocked that, not that it existed, but that they had not heard about it because they would have liked to have seen it at some point. And then that kind of spiraled into these other stories. Once I published that piece, several women contacted me with new allegations, and I wrote a few more stories after that.
So it seems like you really haven't had to search for that many people to speak up. It seems like they're coming to you.
Definitely in some of the cases. Some of the stories in the burn book story that I wrote were stories that I had heard whispers about during my time as an intern at the Capitol, and that I newly pursued, wondering if those women would be interested in talking about it in a way that they had not been in 2013.
You know, so many of these women have been anonymous in these articles, and many of them have not made complaints. Why do you think that they're wanting to share their stories now?
I think, you know, I don't know for certain if all of them have never made complaints. Certainly some of them had gone to their bosses to talk about this issue, or when they were uncomfortable that something happened. There were never formal complaints, but certainly figures in power at the legislature either dealt with them informally or addressed them in the way that they thought was best. I think the main difference now is the national environment that we're in which it is clear that if the figure they're complaining to doesn't take it seriously, everyone else does. And that it's possible that someone might actually do something about it in a way that they have not before.
You know, these women, while they were anonymous, they weren't naming a lot of names. We heard about Boris Miles and Carlos Uresti. Why, if you're anonymous, why wouldn't you name a name?
You know, I think there are women who feel that it's important we know it's happening, who also understand the incredible impact it has on a person's career to have information like this come out about them. The women who have spoken to me who have chosen not to name the person either still believe in what that person has accomplished as a lawmaker, or don't want the harassment that they perpetrated to affect the people around them in ways that they can't anticipate. It's a big deal to not just come forward at all and have your name, sorry, not your name, have the information you're putting forward picked apart, argued over, disbelieved, but to understand that coming forward with a person's name will have an unchangeable impact on the rest of their career, and potentially, especially for a political candidate, their value as a public servant.
Now that it's been out there for a while since you, wrote that first article, what kind of feedback are you getting at this point? Is there a backlash? Are you getting a lot more support than you'd anticipated?
I was really shocked that any legislators commented on it at all, because when I first started reporting on sexism in the Capitol in 2013, there was total radio silence. It was clear that people were reading it. It was clear that people were engaging with it. Several lawmakers contacted me off the record, but nobody publicly reacted to the fact that this culture existed at the Capitol. Because of that, when I wrote my newer stories over the past few months, I'm really surprised that people are engaging with it in the way that they are. Maybe I was too cynical, but it's important to have this conversation, to have other news outlets talking about it, hosting events about it, like the Texas Tribune is doing. And because of that, other women have come forward to me. I'm obviously still reporting on this stuff. I've got more allegations that I'm going to report on, and there are a lot of stories there. Other outlets, there's a lot of material to cover. There are other men in the Capitol who have not yet been named. You know, I'm just one person, so I can only do one thing at a time, but it's an abhorrent culture at the Capitol. These are not isolated allegations.
Well, I know that we appreciate your coverage, and so many people at the Capitol and around the state are realizing that this is happening, and you've inspired other journalists to take up this topic as well in Texas. So I appreciate you keeping going with it, and thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you so much.